As the discussion around the solution for Palestine continues, many people have proposed that military action is the way forward in dealing with the Zionist occupiers. But how practical is this claim? And could military action really liberate Masjid al-Aqsa once and for all? To start with, the Zionists have occupied the land of Jerusalem and its surrounding areas today called Palestine. If we look on a map, we find that the territory they occupy is around 8,500 square miles, roughly the same size as Wales. This is 48 times smaller than Egypt and 83 times smaller than Libya, all who live in the same region as the occupiers. At its longest stretch, from the top to the bottom, the Zionist occupation is only 260 miles, which means you could literally drive across the entire land within 4 hours, including an 18-minute coffee break. Not only do the Zionists occupy a tiny landmass, but they also have a tiny population of only 9 million people. More people live in Lahore than in the entire Zionist occupation. It's actually mad. If we look at the direct borders that the occupiers have, they are surrounded by 131 million Muslims. In terms of militarily, the occupiers have an active personnel of 170,000 men. Seem like a lot? Not when you see the numbers of the Muslims. Egypt, Turkey, Pakistan and Saudi Arabia alone outnumber the occupiers militarily by 1 to 12 men. If we take into consideration the total number of Muslim soldiers worldwide, this ratio jumps from 1 Zionist occupier to 68 Muslim soldiers, whilst the combined military budget is 17 times more than the occupiers. Not only could the Muslim armies neutralize the Zionists in combat, but they also have the ability to cripple their economy. About half of Zionist imports and exports travel via sea, and in case you didn't notice, the Muslim nations would own the Mediterranean Sea and could easily put a blockade on the invaders. Once again, Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt and Saudi Arabia have a combined navy personnel of 184,000 and 514 naval vessels, while the occupiers only have a measly 20,000 personnel and only 64 navy vessels. This is without taking into consideration the rest of the Muslim world. And before the pessimists out there start crying about how the US would get involved and protect the Zionists, don't forget a few important points. Firstly, the US is 6,500 miles away from the occupiers, whilst the Muslims literally border them. Transportation of military soldiers and equipment requires a lot of money and a lot of coordination, especially if the Muslim rulers chose to close down the US bases on their own soil. The US would have a very difficult time in waging any attacks. And don't forget that it is the US who relies on the Muslims, not the other way around. The US requires Muslim normalization with the occupiers. The US required a Muslim coalition to help it invade Afghanistan. The US requires joint military Muslim assistance in the First Gulf War. The US relies on the sellout Muslim rulers, not the other way around. Don't get it twisted. If the liberation of Masjid al-Aqsa were to commence, the Muslim armies would be in the dominant position. The US and its Zionist lapdog would be in the weakened position. With all that said, the greatest strong point for the Muslim armies is that they would be on the side of truth. The only obstacle holding back the liberation of Masjid al-Aqsa are the treacherous rulers who work against the establishment of the Islamic Khilafah and against the cause which the Muslims are calling for. By Allah, if the Khilafah is established soon, the liberation of Palestine would follow shortly after. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to allow us to witness such a day.